The Battle of Cannae, Hannibal's bloody trap. This is the largest mismatch in military history. The Roman Republic sent 80,000 soldiers to annihilate the Carthaginians once and for all. But when the dust had settled, only 10% of the Romans would survive. In the early 200s BC, Rome was experiencing a period of rapid expansion. The Italian peninsula was nearly fully under their control, and they were eyeing the next step, North Africa. Carthage also had their eyes set on North Africa, but the two powers were soon to clash over the region. And this would lead to one of the greatest defeats in Roman history, the Battle of Cannae. Today on the Histify, we will be taking a look at Hannibal's bloody trap, the battle that could have ended the Roman Republic. The Second Punic War had been going on for 11 years. It had started after the sack of the Gauls by the Roman general Scipio Africanus. The Gauls had asked the Carthaginians for help against the expanding Romans. And so Hannibal was tasked with stopping the Roman advance. Up until now, the war had not gone well for the Carthaginians. Hannibal had scored victories at the Trebia and Lake Trasimene, but he was always outnumbered. And after losing an important battle at the river Acis, he had to retreat to Zama. Hannibal had made the decision to strike first and force the Romans into a decisive engagement. He knew that if he didn't do something bold, the Romans would eventually overwhelm him with sheer numbers. And so, Hannibal decided to use his skills as a tactician to lure the Romans into a trap. Scipio Africanus was advancing through the narrow defile of the Thermon Pass when Hannibal ambushed him. Though both sides suffered heavy casualties, it was a tactical victory for the Carthaginians. But this was not what Hannibal wanted. He needed a decisive victory to end the war once and for all. While recuperating from his wounds, Hannibal wrote a letter to his father, Hannibal Barca, asking for more troops. But before the reinforcements could arrive, the Romans advanced again. This time it was under the command of two consuls, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus and Lucius Aemilius Paulus. They advanced along the Via Appia towards the river Vulturnus, where they hoped to find and destroy Hannibal's army. Hannibal retreated, knowing that the Romans would follow him. He led them deeper into the heart of Italy. He destroyed bridges behind him and gathered supplies along the way, keeping just out of range of the pursuing Romans. He finally stopped at the town of Cannae, near the modern-day Italian city of Venosa. Hannibal expected the Romans to attack him here, and he was right. The consuls had spent a whole month maneuvering their troops into position around Cannae. They had 86,000 foot soldiers and 7,000 horsemen, while Hannibal had only 40,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 cavalry. Yet despite being outnumbered nearly 3-1, Hannibal dared to stand and fight. He may have been wounded, but his mind was still sharp. He knew how to turn this defeat into a victory. He chose a battlefield that was roughly 3 miles wide and about a mile deep, surrounded by thickets and marshes. He stationed the bulk of his infantry in the center, with cavalry on either flank. Then he waited for the Romans to attack. Lepidus divided his forces into 2 equal halves and ordered them to attack from opposite flanks. This would allow them to surround Hannibal's position, crush it from both sides, and annihilate the Carthaginian army. In those days, it was standard practice for the Roman maniples to march in 3 lines, each line consisting of 2 deep units. This allowed the Romans to maintain cohesion in their ranks and ensured that they could fill any gaps that appeared during battle. The first line engaged Hannibal's center, giving the signal for the second line to charge forward and fill any gaps in the first line. The third line held in reserve, ready to engage the enemy should the need arise. The plan was working perfectly. The Romans were pushing Hannibal's forces back, and the Carthaginians seemed to be on the verge of collapse. But then something unexpected happened. One of Hannibal's cavalrymen broke through the Roman lines and reached Hannibal's headquarters. There he got the order to sound the horn, which signaled the 3rd Carthaginian cavalry to charge forward. And this is where the battle took a turn. While the Roman infantry was strong, the Carthaginian cavalry was even stronger. They charged through the thinly protected Roman flanks and routed their cavalry. Meanwhile, the 2nd Carthaginian cavalry pushed forward and attacked the exhausted Roman infantry. The battle quickly turned into a rout, and the Romans began to flee the field. Yet despite their overwhelming numerical advantage, the Carthaginians did not pursue the fleeing Romans. And this is what truly made Hannibal great. Instead, they regrouped and prepared to defend their position against the Romans. The Romans, who had broken through Hannibal's lines, were unable to take advantage of their success because they were too far away from their main body. They were also exhausted from their previous attacks and were unable to mount another assault on the Carthaginians. Those who attempted to do so were driven back by the Carthaginian cavalry. As the sun began its slow descent, both armies prepared for the night. Neither side was willing to risk another assault, and so they agreed to call a truce until morning. The following morning, the Romans renewed their attack, but they were no more successful than they had been the day before. They fought bravely, but their efforts were in vain. The Carthaginians were simply too strong, and they were forced to retreat from the field. The Battle of Cannae had been a decisive victory for the Carthaginians. The Romans had lost over 40,000 men, killed or captured, and their 2 consuls were among the dead. Hannibal had achieved what he had set out to do. He had defeated the Roman army and dealt a severe blow to the Roman Republic. However, despite his victory at Cannae, Hannibal was unable to achieve his ultimate goal of destroying the Roman Republic. One reason for this was that the Carthaginians were unable to take advantage of their victory at Cannae. They did not pursue the Romans, and this allowed the Romans to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. Additionally, the Carthaginians were unable to muster enough troops to launch a decisive attack on Rome itself. Despite their numerical superiority, they were unable to match the Romans in terms of manpower and resources. Another reason why Hannibal failed to destroy the Roman Republic was that the Romans were able to learn from their mistakes. After the Battle of Cannae, the Romans took steps to ensure that such a disaster would never repeat itself. They reformed their army and implemented new tactics and strategies that allowed them to fight more effectively against the Carthaginians. Despite his ultimate failure, Hannibal's military tactics at the Battle of Cannae remain legendary. His ability to defeat a larger, more powerful army has been studied by military leaders for centuries. He is considered one of the greatest military commanders in history, and his name has become synonymous with tactical brilliance. If you enjoyed this episode, then please make sure to subscribe and like the video. It really helps us out. You can also check out our other videos, which we think you might enjoy. Thanks for watching.